Hello everyone, my name is Ed Trippel, and I would like to thank the organizing committee for giving me the opportunity to speak on this topic. Today I will be presenting to you an update on ropeless fishing in Atlantic Canada, advances and remaining challenges. My presentation is divided into the following topics: investment in ropeless fishing, review of the DFO 2020 International Gear Summit, progress, challenges, policy, gear marking, and gear modifications. There has been significant investment in ropeless fishing by a number of funding agencies. These include the Atlantic Fisheries Fund, Innovative Solutions Canada, Canada Nature Fund, Pew Charitable Trust, DFO, and private and entrepreneurship. Funds have focused on research and development, including at-sea trials, and partnering has occurred with a number of fishing organizations in Atlantic Canada. In February of this year, Fisheries and Oceans hosted an International Gear Innovation Summit in Halifax, Nova Scotia. There were two key themes related to whale-safe fishing gear, and these were focused on ropeless fishing and low breaking strength modifications. Approximately 250 attended the summit from across the globe, with the majority of participants representing the regional fishing industry and North American gear entrepreneurs. Items covered ropeless fishing pilots, presentations on different ropeless fishing devices, panel discussions, and here in the photograph you can see Ben Brickett presenting on the time tension line cutter within the session on gear modifications. Also, there were significant trade booths, as well as ghost fishing and ocean plastics. Those topics were also given a similar effort to whale-safe fishing gear. So in order to gain approval to pilot ropeless fishing gear, one must apply for a Section 52 permit, and this permit is reviewed within DFO regions by personnel from science, resource management, conservation and protection, and species at risk personnel. If you wish to fish during the fishing season, you would also need a similar review within your region, but also an additional approval level would have to be sought from national headquarters in Ottawa. So the first request of this kind was made in 2020, and it was successful. Leading up to this approval, there have been extensive R&D work in the area, and you can see here, starting in 2018, the Acadian Crabbers Association, supported by the Atlantic Fisheries Fund and the province of New Brunswick, were funded for gear research and development. There's 15 sub-projects over 3 years, and these included field testing of Desert Star, Edge Tech, Ashore Innovations, and other ropeless device gear trials. Through the Atlantic Fisheries Fund, DFO in the province of Nova Scotia, the Desert Star Arc 1 was tested in 2018 in different sea states, depths, visibility, and tide conditions by Coldwater Lobster Association and the Graham and Ann Fishermen's Association. The ropeless system that proved to be the most reliable and tested to date is the Edge Tech 5112 ropeless fishing system. This company retooled an acoustic release device that had been used for years in scientific and other industries, and is proven to be highly reliable and durable. And here you can see its adaptation to a lobster gear and snow crab gear. The Canadian Wildlife Federation has also stepped up and coordinated a significant amount of ropeless fishing trials. This slide summarizes some of that effort: 25 sea days and over 125 deployments in 2020, testing of the Edge Tech, Ashore, Field Marine, and Desert Star systems. 6 commercial fishers and crew were involved in testing, and there have been meetings with over 40 commercial fishers and 25 fisheries reps since the project started. Of greatest note is the 2020 experimental trials led by the Canadian Crabbers Association during the crab season. And here's a slide representing a closure of 17,575 square kilometers, or 6,575 square miles, which is normally available to snow crab fishermen at the time fishers set out with their ropeless fishing gear. So you can see there was a huge incentive for these fishermen to have access to areas where they traditionally fish in. These black and red areas were closed to conventional fishing due to sightings of North Atlantic right whales. Vessels departed for the southern Gulf of St. Lawrence from Shippagan and Caracat. 10 fishers volunteered for this. Some bought their own devices. Others were part of the AFF project. The fishers had a wide range of experience and comfort with new technology, years crab fishing, and involvement in previous trials. They were given access to fish in closed areas in CFA 12. Each used a 10-pot trawl with sinking ground line rather than single pots, which they normally use. The results were very promising, with 35 successful retrievals using EdgeTech gear and 1 failure, and this failure was not related to the acoustic release not firing, but rather to a rope storage problem. And here's a photo of the layout of the gear used by one of the snow crabbers during the June trials, and the catches were being sold commercially. So there were challenges noted, and these include shortcomings in the virtual gear tracking app, limitations in cell phone coverage, issues with rope storage. So despite these, all 10 fishers wish to continue in 2021, and there's interest by other fishers to join as well. Now the area and type of fishery that takes place in the southern Gulf of St. Lawrence, namely here the snow crab fishery, is highly suited for ropeless fishing compared to a number of other fisheries in the Northwest Atlantic. The Bay of Fundy and Southwest Nova Scotia fisheries with their high tides have presented additional challenges. For example, here you can see note of water current on the vertical line, the buoy line, and the small hard plastic buoys which are used in ropeless fishing. When those come to the surface, the drag on the rope and the fact that the buoys are quite small leads to those buoys going underwater very rapidly, such that the crew only has basically a couple of minutes to locate the gear and bring it up and retrieve it before it goes under. Also, high tides can lead to a drag on a rope bag which is attached to the trap on the ocean floor, such that that trap may actually move, and so this will lead to some issues of relocating the gear. Also, there's difficulties in locating gear after a storm when there's no buoys present at the surface. Also, there other challenges involve gear conflicts, multi-species fisheries, type of virtual gear marking, education and training is needed, and the devices have to be reliable and affordable. DFO conservation and protection staff are beginning to become more involved in the development of approaches to monitor ropeless fishing. Fishers will have to be able to view virtually the array of gear that is set on the ocean bottom so as to avoid unwanted gear interactions. Multi-species fisheries in the same area, you can imagine a trawl going through a field of set fixed gear, and if they don't know where the gear is set, there's obviously great chances for gear conflicts to occur. In addition to what I've been speaking about, I'd like to bring up some methods that DFO has initiated in 2020 in order to aid in the tracing of entanglements, and that is unique colored gear markings. There have been 90 plus unique markings enforced across the Northwest Atlantic in 2020, and here's some examples in this photograph. These markings are used to clearly distinguish between Canadian and US gear. It allows us to see gear, to identify gear to regions as well as species and fishing area. So for example, the inner rope, which happens to be a weak rope, dyed red, the red twine, which you can see next to the yellow twine, The red represents Newfoundland and Labrador, the yellow represents lobster, and the adjacent twine, which is green, represents lobster fishing area 7. Now that twine should be put in is to be put in at the top, middle, and bottom. Basically, each twine length should be 15 centimeters long at minimum. And that is ideal for rope which is currently in their inventory. If they're going out to purchase new rope, they have an option to request from the manufacturer to have colored tracers put in that will match basically the twine colors. And this permits the entire length of a buoy line to be marked versus just the top, middle, and bottom, and is even of extra value in terms of tracing entanglements back to fishing area, species, and country. So this has been a big plus in terms of development for 2020 in this area. Also of interest is the low braking strength gear modifications. There was an announcement by the minister in February of this year that the same fishing gear, non-tended fixed gear fisheries would be required to have some gear modifications which lead to whale-safe fishing gear, and that would be, there's consultation and working with industry on those gear trials, and this would include weak rope and weak links and dissemination of background information. Here are some of the examples of the gear modifications that are being trialed. There's weak rope, there's a hollow sleeve, as well as the time tension line cutter. And my final slide here is of a vessel that was participated in the June ropeless fishing trials in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. You can see in the corner of the vessel there's 10 7-foot diameter crab pots stacked on top of each other, and they're connected with sinking ground line. And on the left you can see the Edge Tech system ready to be launched overboard with 3 hard plastic buoys attached to that configuration. And with that, I'd like to thank you and look forward to any comments or questions.